Welcome back to another one of my videos. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Lotta, and today we're going to be making this super easy Oreo pound cake or loaf cake. So if you want to see how to make this recipe, keep watching the video and let's get right to it. Now before we get baking, let's make a coffee. Oh, hot. Okay, now that we've got our coffee, let's get our ingredients ready and then let's get this cake baking. Little do they know, I already have all my ingredients prepped. Now our recipe is going to be pretty similar to the other loaf or pound cakes that I've made on my channel. So for this one, you're going to need 150 grams of sugar with a pinch of salt, a good splash of vanilla for flavor, 250 grams of softened, or in my case, almost completely melted butter, 4 room temperature eggs, 250 grams of flour with 2 teaspoons of baking powder, about 100 milliliters of milk, and I'm going to be using 150 grams of Oreos. Now feel free to add more Oreos if you want more Oreo chunks in your cake. I feel like 150 grams or this amount of cookies is going to spread out pretty evenly in my cake, and it's not going to be too much since I also want to do a couple Oreo crumbs on top as well. But again, feel free to add as much or as little Oreo as you want. Now, as per usual, we're going to start by creaming together our butter, sugar, salt, and vanilla until that is super light and fluffy before adding in our eggs one at a time. Now, once again, you can feel free to separate your eggs and add your egg yolks to your butter sugar mixture and whisk up your egg whites in a separate bowl until you have some nice stiff peaks. Again, if you want that extra fluff, separate your eggs. If you don't really mind too much, you can just add them straight to your butter sugar mixture, which is what I'm going to do. Now that our eggs are completely mixed in, we can go ahead and add our dry ingredients as well as our milk. Now I'm going to go ahead and sieve my baking powder as well as my flour, and that's just going to add a little bit of extra airiness to the cake, which is what I want. But again, I don't want it enough to separate my eggs. And I'm also going to do this in 2 batches just to make sure that it's a little bit easier to get everything incorporated, and I also don't want to overmix it. About half the flour. If you like that, just add the baking powder as well. And I'll add about half the milk as well. Now, as soon as everything is incorporated, stop mixing because you don't want to overmix it.
Stop it.
I'm going to set my dough aside for now, and then last thing we need to do is quickly chop up our Oreos as big or as small as we want and quickly fold it into our dough. Now again, if you feel like you don't have enough Oreo pieces in your cake, feel free to chop up some more and just fold it in. I'm pretty happy with the amount that I have in my cake, so I'm just going to go ahead and transfer it into my pre-lined tin. Now at this point, our cake can wander into the oven that's been preheated to 180 degrees Celsius or 360 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to let it bake for about 60 minutes. My oven is not preheated, so I'm going to wait till it's at the right temperature. Now while our cake is cooling off, we can already go ahead and whisk up our glaze. So for my glaze, I'm just making a really simple powdered sugar glaze to kind of mirror the inside of the Oreos. So I'm using 50 grams of powdered sugar, a good splash of milk, and I'm also going to add a little bit of vanilla just for flavor. Now our glaze comes together really quickly. We're basically just going to gradually add our wet ingredients to our powdered sugar. We're just going to whisk that around until we get the consistency that we like. I prefer a somewhat thicker glaze because then it also stays a little bit more white in color and it doesn't get as clear as it dries. But again, if you want it to be a little bit more thin and kind of cover the entire cake, just add a little bit more milk. Now, if you added your milk a little bit too fast and your glaze is a little bit too thin, you can always just go ahead and add a little bit more powdered sugar to thicken it up until you get the right consistency. Now, this obviously doesn't make a lot of glaze, which is what I want. I just want a little bit on top, maybe dripping down the sides just a tad. And this glaze is basically just going to act as a glue for some more Oreo pieces to go on top. But again, decorate however you want to. Now I was going to leave my cake like this, but I changed my mind and I made a little bit more of my glaze. So I used 25 grams of powdered sugar with just a tiny splash of milk to get a nice thick glaze again. And I'm just gonna go ahead and drizzle it over my Oreo pieces. And I think that's just going to further help kind of glue it to the cake and make sure that they don't fall off when I transport it. And there you have it, a super easy Oreo loaf cake. So that's going to be everything for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up or write me a comment down below. And as always, the whole recipe is going to be in the description box as well. And I'll see you next week with another recipe.